we'll be studying about introduction part of the business law. We'll not go much in detail. We'll study what business law is, how the business law came into existence, how the business law has came into existence. That we'll study in today's class. Plus, we'll study about the history of the business law and the types what are included and how we have taken this business law. Those all things we are going to study in today's lecture. So if you see about Indian business law, the first part as per our module 1 is general principles. The basic concepts we will study about business law. We'll study about Indian Contract Act of 1872. We'll study about what do you mean by contract, agreement, types of contract, essentials of a contract. So those all principles, general rules and regulations related to a contract that we are going to study in today's lecture. So by starting with the definition of a business law, mercantile law or a business law are one and the same. If you call it as a mercantile law or if you call it as a business law, that doesn't make any difference. Both are same. Mercantile law may be defined as that branch of law which consists of laws relating to the trade, industry and commerce. It is one of the important branch of civil law. It is also called as commercial law. Right? We call it as mercantile law, we call it as business law, we call even it as commercial law. This law will help us to do trade, to do business, to do commerce, to do any other activities which are related to the business. Right? For every businessman, for every trader, for every manufacturer, the business law or mercantile law is very, very important. Now, if you see the definition of the business law said by S.R. Davar, which says that mercantile law means that branch of law which is applicable to or concerned with the trade and commerce in connection with the various mercantile or business transactions. If you want to do various business transactions all over India, now the rules and regulations which are said according to the business law or mercantile law, those rules and regulations we have to follow in India. Every country they have their own mercantile law or business law. In India, we have prepared our own mercantile law and business law. So to do the trade and commerce, business activities, manufacturing or various other things, we have to follow the mercantile law or the business law. And according to that, only all transactions have to be kept. So that is the definition which is said by S.R. Davar, right? Business law. Now, if you see a little bit of scope, why it is important, right? What is the scope? If you study a business law or mercantile law, what in return, what is the important scope of that? The scope of mercantile law or a business law is very wide and varied. It includes law relating to the contract, partnership, sale of goods act, negotiable instruments, companies, insolvency, insurance, carriage of goods. If you study these all act, right, mercantile law in detail, you can do these all things like contracts. You can study about partnership. You can study in detail about sale of goods, negotiable instruments, companies, right? Then insolvency, insurance, carriage of goods. Each and everything is included in the mercantile law. That is the important scope. Then the mercantile law is concerned with the study of rights and obligation arising out of mercantile transactions. If you do any business transactions or mercantile transactions, the things what will arise, the rights and duties, rights and obligations, those rights and obligation in details we will come to know if you only know about, if you only have a knowledge of mercantile law, business law, right? That is the important scope of studying the mercantile law. Similarly, the knowledge of mercantile law is essential to merchants. It helps merchants to avoid conflicts with the persons with whom he comes into the business contacts. Right? Many a times the traders, manufacturers or the merchants, when they come into the conflicts, when the conflict will go in the court, then in whose favor the decision will be given, that is very important. The decision will not be given just by looking at someone's documents, looking at someone's money or power. No, the decision will be given by looking at law. When you know about mercantile law, the decision will be given at that particular favor. So it will help all the merchants over India. It will help the traders, it will help the manufacturers, right? It will help the businessmen to do the business activities. Then what are the main sources from where we have gathered our mercantile law? Right? Mercantile law has been gathered from different sources, different places. In India, we have collected mercantile law or business law from certain important sources. First is English mercantile law. Right? As we know that many Indians or many part of India or all over India was ruled by Britishers for so many years. So when Britishers were ruling, they have started implemented their own rules, right? Even you can see income tax was established by the Britishers, Companies Act, they started it. So various things have been started, initiated by the Britishers. Due to that, even in mercantile law or business law, the first source of the collection of the information has been done by the English mercantile law, right? Whatever is there in the English law, that has been collected, and many rules of English law has been incorporated into the Indian law, right? When they were preparing Indian mercantile law, many rules have been taken from the English mercantile law, and many have been what you call are the important law of English mercantile law. So this is the first important source, that is English mercantile law. Second is statute law. Statute law is one which is laid down in the Act of the Parliament. When the Parliament in the houses, when they pass any act, or when the act has been passed in the houses of the Parliament, it will form as the law, right? It can change from time to time, it can change from places to places, it can change from the parties, right? So by seeing the majority of the members in the Parliament, the act of the Parliament will be changed. So that particular law, when it is passed by the Parliament Act, it is called as statute law. There are some law which have been passed by statute law which are very important, are Indian Contract Act of 1872, then Sale of Goods Act 1930, and the Companies Act 1956 are some of the example of statute law which have been passed by the Act of the Parliament. The third important source is judicial decisions. The judicial decisions are also called as case laws. We can see that there are so many courts in India, like starting from district court in all over district level, then comes High Court, right? And after that comes Supreme Court. Various decisions are taken by the judges, whether that is a district judge or High Court judge or Supreme Court judge. They will take various decisions related to the mercantile or business activities and the business law cases. Then there are some cases due to that judicial decisions are being taken or judicial law has been made by the court, right? If any new case comes, the court will take a decision, and after taking a decision, it will be formed as a law. So such type of law which the court has made after taking some important decisions are called as judicial decisions, and that is also one of the important source of law. They are referred as the precedents and binding on all the courts having jurisdictions lower to that of the court which gave the judgments, right? When the judgment is given, the same judgment copy will be taken, right? One case came to some court, like maybe High Court or a Supreme Court. The judge in that Supreme Court gave some decision. So based on that decision, the judicial decision will be passed, or the act or a law will be made. So such type of the law has also been incorporated in business law. So those are called as judicial decisions. Then customs and usage. Some of the important sources are customs and usage, which also play a very important role in regulating the business transactions. A well-recognized custom or a usage can even override the statute law. Most of the business customs and usage have been already codified and given legal sanctions in India. Some of them have been ratified by decisions of the competent courts of law, right? So many customs and usage are there, those have been ratified. Customs and usage means which we are using from long back. Before independence, there were some customs, right? After that, that custom has formed into a law, and that law has been, after getting independence or becoming an act, has been ratified or has been modified, and then it has came into a proper law. Let us take for example, like before independence, when Indian were facing the financial, the Britishers were facing the financial crisis because they were fighting continuously with the Indian freedom fighters, and they were shortage of money. So they implemented tax as a temporary measure, which was called as Lagan in those days. Then after some time, that custom of Lagan came as an act, or it became as an act. Similarly, there are so many things in mercantile law or business law which came as the custom and usage. Later on, they were converted as act. And after becoming act, they have been ratified. Some changes have been made by the current government, or some changes have been made by the parliament, and then they are made as an act in the business law. That is also an important fourth important source. Okay, so then we'll see about law of a contract. What do you mean by a law of a contract? When you form a contract, right, the contract should be legal. It should be supported by law. If the contract is illegal, if the contract is not supported by law, the contract will not become valid. The contract will not be accepted. So that law which is specified, law has told that these all things should be present in a contract. Then only you can make a proper contract, right? So what are the things, what is the law, or what is the rules and regulation related to a contract, which are said in various sections? To study about law of a contract, a separate section has been made by the contract, that is Indian Contract Act of 1872, which came on 1st of September 1872 in India. Earlier days, it was applied to whole India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. In Jammu and Kashmir, it was not applicable. But right now, because government has removed certain article, and then now it is also applicable for Jammu and Kashmir. So all over India, wherever you go, in whichever part you are staying, you have to follow the same Indian Contract Act of 1872 if you are doing a contract. So what is a law of a contract? So definition of a contract, if you see, given by Pollack, every agreement and a promise enforceable at a law is a contract. If you make any agreement and a promise, with agreement promise, if you do, and if it is enforceable by law, if it is accepted by law, it becomes a contract. To make a contract, that means, first of all, you have to do an agreement. And then second is, you should have done a promise. So when agreement and promise are done, if it is enforceable by law, accepted by law, then that becomes a contract. Okay, some other author is given a definition, will not go in there. So we'll go to this definition. So definition according to the Contract Act, right, which is said in section 2, subsection H of Indian Contract Act of 1872, which says an agreement enforceable by law is a contract. Right? If you want to form a contract, you require two important things. First is agreement, second is enforceable or enforceability. When you combine these two important things together, agreement and enforceability, then one new thing will come into existing. That new thing what comes into existence, it is called as a contract, right? So that contract is an agreement enforceable by law, right? Contract is an agreement enforceable by law. Okay, there are various types of agreements. If you see, there are two important types of agreements. First is social agreements and second is legal agreements. Okay, so what is a social agreement? An agreement or social agreement are not enforceable because they do not create legal obligation between the parties. Somebody has invited someone for a dinner or a lunch, right? Somebody has invited someone for a dinner or a lunch. Now going there is not compulsory. Going to that dinner or lunch is not compulsory. It is optional, because such kind of agreement or invitation what somebody is giving you, those are social agreement, right? Just for social cause you'll go and attend there. But legal agreement are those which are enforceable because they create legal obligation between parties. Like for example, A promises to sell B. A promises to sell his car to B. Right? A has promised B that he will sell his car. Now this agreement, what they are doing, that is enforceable, because that is a legal agreement. The earlier agreement, inviting someone to a dinner, if you fail to attend that dinner, it will not have a binding, or it will not make a party liable for it. Why? Because that is a social agreement. But the second agreement, what you can see, is a legal agreement, because here there is agreement plus it is legal, right? It is a legal agreement where you are having both the parties plus price is also there. So that is a legal agreement. So these are two important types: social agreement and legal agreement. If you want to make a contract, remember there should be a legal agreement. Legal agreement. Now we have seen all the theory. Now come back to the point: what contract is, what agreement is, what enforceability is. If you want to form a contract, you require two things. First is agreement. Which kind of agreement? Legal agreement. If you are doing social agreement, you do not form a contract. Contract will not come into existence. Contract will not come into picture, right? To form a contract, you require first is legal agreement plus enforceability. Enforceability means which is accepted by law, which should be legal. If you are doing agreement, it is correct, legal agreement is there. But if it is not accepted by law, means you are doing an illegal agreement. Illegal agreement, though it is legal agreement, but you are doing it for the illegal cause. Such type of a thing are not enforceable by court of law. So it will not form as a contract. To form a contract, you require agreement plus enforceability. Then to form agreement, right? To form an agreement, you require two things. First is offer, second is acceptance. Offer means somebody should be ready to sell the goods. We call it as offerer. Somebody should be ready to sell, offer something, right? A should be ready to sell his car. So that way we can call as offer. And then similarly, acceptance. There should be acceptance. And some other party should be ready to accept the goods, right? When you combine both offer plus acceptance, it becomes agreement, right? Then enforceability means what? Legal obligation between the parties. Both the parties, offerer and offeree, or in the simple words, buyer and seller, should be having a legal obligations. Their duty, what they are performing, should be legal. Or if anything is going illegal, immoral, opposed to public policy, where there is no consideration, or where they are doing it but it is not legal, in such case, agreement will not be enforceable, right? You understood all these things. Like contract, when you want to form it, you require agreement plus enforceability. And agreement, if you want to form it, right, you require offer plus acceptance. And enforceability, what you require should be legal obligation between the parties. When you have this all thing together, then the proper valid